let's see here. All right. We're now live with old guy carnivore Mitch, both on YouTube, Facebook. I got Dr. Kiltz Instagram, and I've got the Mighty Tribe, but it hasn't been kind of connecting quite as good as usual. But I'm inspired by my good friend Mitch, who we've seen each other, connected with each other, and then last year we met at Orlando for the first time, and I think I found my brother from another mother.
It's the highest compliment there, Kiltzy. Here's to you this morning, and you tell me that this is a real occasion for you. Now, I don't know if I want to spill the beans, but I don't know how your tribe would take to the actual hard truth this morning and what you actually have in that cup. So I'll let you.
Well, it's actually, so I do my pod coffee for my podcast, and this has been my I'm going to call it addiction for since I think I was 5, in order to poop or something in life, or ADHD. I think my coffee kind of calmed it down a little bit, but I've got some real coffee in a Kiltz cup in honor of morning coffee with Mitch.
Whoa. All right, my friend. Here's to you. And I'm drinking out of my cup that Kiltzy made for me, a gift that I got from him in Orlando last year. The only problem with it, and I used it yesterday too, the only problem I had with it was it doesn't hold a full 12 ounces.
Well, when your cup overfloweth, pass it around and keep filling it up. I like my small cups, and I take my therm and I just keep on refilling, because I think this is the perfect size.
I like it.
And
so that's what I did.
And I like to embrace my coffee cup. And it's a Kiltz cup, a Kiltz coffee cup, and coffee with Kiltz and coffee with Mitch. And I have been listening to Mitch, and recently I just hit Mitch when I pull out of my garage at usually between 3 and 4 a.m. and I listen to Mitch on my way to the office, where I do my podcast in Syracuse at CNY Fertility, and then when I'm down in Sarasota, I either do it at my house or at the office down there. And we and I love you said, and the rest of the story.
Well, us old guys remember that.
We do, but the younger and younger carnivores are showing up.
Yeah, I see that.
And which I think is critical important, because our job is to invite our brothers and sisters to the true Lion's Way. And well, now I guess one question is, what do Mitch and I have in common? and I'm just wondering if anyone could sort of throw it out there, anyone could guess the one thing we have in common. And there aren't that many of us in the world, but it's something that you can soar higher than you've ever imagined doing.
Even I'm having trouble figuring out what we have in common, what you're talking about.
Well.
Oh, airplanes. Oh, God, yeah. Yes.
Airplanes.
Oh, yes.
And I learned to fly at 55, and then I learned to fly a jet at 62.
Oh, unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Which is unbelievable. And Bev said fly planes. We got it, Bobby.
Goats. Oh, wow. Why didn't I think of that?
And it is sweet. And we got so many people here. We appreciate everyone, the comments, the support, and I come to these morning events because I need you guys. I'm kind of a lonely guy, and I think that I love to connect, and I feel the energy of our brothers and sisters all doing this together. And Mitch and I and everyone here. And I don't know. Do we see Nelson yet? Dr. Nelson yet?
I don't see him. I'm streaming this on my channel too. and I've got I can't believe this, 68 people are watching it on my channel.
Yeah.
I hope maybe that some of these people for the first time are getting to see one of your morning lives, because they don't know. That's why I did it. I said, you know what? I've got a big morning tribe. Let me see if I can introduce some of them to Kiltz. Maybe they don't normally watch it, so they're here for you, man. They're here to. I can't believe they're up at. Well, I can believe it, because when I post my live streams, the morning coffee with Mitch deal, I post it the night before, and which opens up the chat. You know that you get here, and I've got a bunch of insomniacs that come in. These people at 1 o'clock in the morning, they're having conversations, and I mean, it's not like they're overseas. Some of them are even in California.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Well, I mean, I wake up at a God law like 2 to 3 in the morning. I go to bed usually 8 or 9, and then I text people, and then I get a reply. I'm like, wow, I'm not the only one.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But I'll tell you what you just said rang a real chord with me, and I've talked about it so many times, is the sense of community. And I think besides flying and the fact that you said you're a loner and you do this because these are where your friends are, I don't know how many other people in the world can understand what that's like, but that is what I do. That's the reason I'm here every morning.
And I think social media is really a connection for so many people that are living a lonesome life, and so many people are. And I surf, I listen and watch YouTube all the time. I go through my Instagram. I don't touch TikTok, which I probably should, but I want to connect because we now have a method of helping our brothers and sisters. And this idea that there's nothing wrong with us. We're all perfect the way we are. And I think that's the beauty that I've learned with my good friend Mitch. And yeah, I'll be 70 next year. I'll be 69 in like a month.
Oh, you're just I thought you were about 70 or 71. You're just a mere child, Kiltz. Holy cow.
And I'm going to be a grandpa in 2 weeks.
Oh man, congratulations.
I am really excited, but I don't know what to do. I'm just like, it's like, what do I do? What do I say? And all these sort of things. And my daughter, Pilar, is amazing. And her husband, Luca, and her mom, Gina, they just, I'm so blessed to be a part of this family, but I really believe we are in a larger family together. And your post the other day from your kitchen with bacon and eggs and your challenges with what you've been thinking and feeling in our communities, I think that's raw and real. And I was crying and listening and learning, because all of us are here together with similar thoughts and feelings.
We are. I do something that you don't see too many YouTubers do. I try to just open up to people and bring in what I go through every day, trying to figure this out. And you know that you can't second guess it. You can't figure it out. Everybody's telling you how to do it. None of it works. All the stuff they tell you how to do, none of it works. They tell, you gotta, say this and do this in the first 13 seconds, or you'll lose 90% of your viewers and the retention rate and all. No, none of that stuff works. And I'm an open person, and everybody that I meet, I treat like a friend, and the story of my life just comes pouring out. And I don't know if that's bad or good.
I come here like church for community and learning from our fellow brothers and sisters how to lead and live a better life. And I make plenty of money in my fertility business. I never went into medicine to make money. I didn't know that fertility businesses made a lot of money. I charged $2,000 for IVF 20 years ago, and I got paid $2,000 for 9 months of OB care and deliver a baby at 2 in the morning.
Wow.
And so I was like, well, why would anyone charge any more than that? And now we charge about $4,000. I would make it less expensive, and I'm working to continue to do that. But we're here to invest in life. And in my opinion, our investing in watching Mitch and others, and these, whether it's a super chat or just a small token of our appreciation, because if you think about it, we're not buying Cheerios and Kellogg's and all the other Procter and Gamble products anymore, which basically fed the foolery of most of what we were watching on television and radio. And what this is about is we're helping heal our brothers and sisters in carnivore. And maybe, Mitch, we're listening, watching, and enjoying. What's your simplicity to carnivore?
Well, that's my whole deal. And I don't know whether I'm proud of it or scared of it, but I seem to always be the guy going in the opposite direction of everybody else. Carnivore itself has you going in the opposite direction of the vast majority of the people. And then within our entire carnivore space, I find myself going in the opposite direction of most of the actual carnivore influencers and creators on YouTube. And that's a scary, scary thing. It's a scary thing to have your message different than theirs, because what if I'm wrong? Because you and I may be the only people around that actually take the physician's oath to heart. Do no harm, because that's all they do is harm, and we're trying not to do harm. So every other word out of my mouth is a disclaimer. In my opinion, I could be wrong. In my opinion, I could be wrong, because I don't want to hurt anybody. And not being a doctor, and even if I was a doctor, I just don't want to give advice to people unless I'm absolutely certain that it cannot hurt them. And they're unknowns. You know that. You are a doctor. You know that nobody's qualified to diagnose somebody who tells you about their problem on the internet unless they're your patient and you have their lab tests and you've seen them. And even then, it's a guess at sometimes, isn't it?
Well, what I've learned, I broke a leg at 19. So I grew up in LA, kicked out of school in a gang, father in jail. I couldn't read. I had terrible migraines and bowel problems. And at 19, I broke a leg. Mrs. Wong at 16 taught me how to do pottery and center myself, by the way. This is one of the best things that ever happened to me is I couldn't get into Spanish class, so I had to take a ceramics class. But I broke a leg at 19. I met a hippie doctor. I thought, wow, I wonder what it takes to be that.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to the counselor's office, and they're like, what are you thinking? No. Auto mechanics and something like that. But I did it. And what I've learned is we're taught how to diagnose disease and treat it with a drug. That's how we're taught. There is no really digging into understanding what the cause of disease. And ultimately, I've learned it's propaganda.
No doubt.
And so, but what I've learned, I actually have learned from people like Mitch over the years, because after suffering until 55, I finally found carnivore, and I was like, in 1 month, all gone. And so, again, it's simplicity.
Well, that was the question you asked me. You said, what are my thoughts on simplicity? And that is the thrust of my channel. And it's amazing to me that somehow I managed to fill up all this airtime, talking about something that I could probably summarize and say in 2 minutes. In other words, you tell me everything I need to know about carnivore that's important. Well, that really would take about 2 minutes. And basically, my main messages have always been our main problem. This is the most important, regardless of what anybody says. Our main problem is we are carbohydrate, we are sugar addicts. We are almost universally sugar addicts, and that is the root cause of all the problems. It's why? Well, because sugar, and this is important, and I keep talking about this. People say, well, okay, how did we become sugar addicts? And if we're not supposed to eat sugar, how come we have all of the chemical pathways to metabolize sugar? Tell me why, Mitch. Why or do we have the physiology? And I say to them, because sugar is survival food. It has been the survival food also for the species that came before us, from our ancient ancestors, from even the dinosaurs probably had the same chemistry. It is the oldest thing. And then I say to them, and this is the key point, and I don't hear anybody, I've never heard these words in any doctor, not Ken Berry. I've never heard these words come out of anybody's mouth. And to me, it's so obvious. How much sugar does the body store? 1 day. 1 day.
I've
How
got
much?
a teaspoon here somewhere. It's like a teaspoon.
Right. That's how much is in your blood. But the body can only store 24 hours worth of fuel. That's like going into a gas station and putting a half a pint of gas in your car. Your body can store months and months and months worth of fat as energy, and you can live. That's like hibernation. But your body in 1 day is out of sugar unless it makes its own, which back in the days of the cavemen, when they were eating meat, they didn't have excess fat to make all that extra sugar out of.
Well, here's my theory.
Well, that's a complicated theory.
Because it's upside down too. But
now I can't read it from there.
But here it is. Sugar is never the fuel for the body. It's for something called glycosylation.
I agree.
Post-translational modification of a protein. So it turns out that without sugar, you're dead, but it has nothing to do with energy. It has everything to do with glycosylation, and fat turns out to be the only fuel and building block of the body. This is kind of amazing concepts. So this is where I think, again, what's glucose for? Glycosylation, not energy at all. And so I just did a 3-day fast. Last month I did a 5-day fast. 2 months prior, a 7-day fast. And how do I feel? Amazing. And so we are hyperphagic for sugar. When did sweet things show up in our environment?
Well, it wasn't too long ago, but either way, the point that I try to get across is we all kind of accepted the fact that we're supposed to be, as a species, what we call fat burners, even though we really don't burn anything. But let's use that term because people know it. But fat burners, and we can store that much fuel, but we only can store like 24 hours worth of glycogen. So what happens is that our subconscious mind, the brain, the animal brain, the brain that is controlling all the chemistry, the man behind the curtain, is always aware, especially if we've been on this I'm living on sugar primarily train, is always aware that if we don't find more sugar immediately, we will be dead tomorrow. And that is a panic mode of the subconscious mind. And that is the root of the generation of an impetus to make the animal go hunt for the sugar. And that manifests itself in the form of cravings, with the anticipation of a great reward of pleasure, which is the dopamine hit when when that happens. So we're constantly living on that we're going to die tomorrow, we need to find sugar treadmill. And that has become the single most powerful addiction that anybody could ever have. And yet in our society, it's politically incorrect, because it goes against the message, the narrative that carbs are good and fat is bad. And we have screwed ourselves completely, and we need to understand how it happened.
I've been talking about this, and this is the optimal diet, the importance of nutrition in pregnancy and lactation, lifelong consequences. This is a expert opinion of what pregnant and lactating women should eat. Okay,
Who's the expert?
well, this is the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, May 2022. And it's basically our experts in the medical field that are recommending for healthy pregnant and lactating women to eat plant-based foods.
I know. I knew that was coming.
Vegetables, fruit, whole grains, legumes, nuts, herbs, spices, olive oil, fish, poultry, and red wine.
And, red wine is the answer to everything. And there's a funny story about how red wine became as popular as it is today.
And by the way, we got old guy carnivore Mitch, and we're really grateful that he's showed up. And it was because our pregnant woman had to deliver that pregnant baby that Mitch is like the pinch hitter, right?
Yeah, I was. So we're not talking about carnivore for our kids today, are we? No.
But interesting enough, they also say diets to avoid during pregnancy: Atkins, paleo, keto. Now, they didn't even give us carnivore here.
Well, we're so fringe that they don't even know, half of them don't even know we're here.
And so wine. Why wine?
Wine. Wine, it's an interesting story. It takes a couple minutes to tell if you want to hear it.
Does anyone want to hear Mitch tell the story? By the way, we appreciate everyone's questions, comments, likes, shares, subscribes, all those things. And why? Because we want to spread the word of health and wellness for everyone. Mitch, you got the time.
I see my good friend CB Carmack is here. Good morning, CB. CB is a sheriff down in Alabama and one of the greatest. He's such a great supporter of my channel. And CB said it was the red wine that got her pregnant in the first place.
That's it. I always, when everything else fails, go to a party and drink heavily. And
yeah.
Then so here, this morning, and what happened?
So here's the story. It's very simple. And CB, I want to show you something, Kelsey. This is fabulous. This is fabulous. CB Carmack, the fellow I saw, sent me this. This is an actual copy of this magazine.
I love it.
And it even has the address label on it. And he sends me stuff. And this, you talk about a piece of history from our, what we've learned about turning points in the destruction of the human race. This was one of the main ones. He also sent me something else I want to show you that's incredible. Incredible. It's this book. And you have it's an old book. It was printed in 1913, and it's called The Story of Crisco.
Another
and this
beautiful
major turning point, an event that they, like the butterfly effect, that from one event, from one invention, a cascade of other things started that turned into a disaster. So the story of red wine comes from Ancel Keys and his work. Ancel Keys came up with the diet heart hypothesis, went and did the 7-country study, but some of the countries didn't jive. Some of the countries that had the highest fat diets, coincidentally, had the lowest rates of heart disease. So he cherry-picked the 7 countries that could fit nicely on his graph and ignored the rest of them. Well, one of those countries that didn't fit his theory, his hypothesis, was France. France had the highest fat diet on the planet Earth and one of the lowest rates of heart disease, and they called that the French paradox. And they still do to this day. So if you Google French paradox, you'll get this particular story. maybe with a different twist on it, maybe with a pro wine. So, oh, there you go, butter. That's what the French use. They can't even make sweets. They can't bake without, look at a croissant. They can't bake anything without making it half fat. Cream sauces, soups. Okay, so we had the French paradox. So they had to explain this. So these rocket scientists came up with a theory. Well, it must be, what do the French do different than most other people do? Well, they drink a lot of wine. Ah, that's it. It's the wine. Wine counteracts the deadly effects of fat. So we're going to recommend that everybody start drinking wine because it's good for you. And the wine business took off like a Delta 9 rocket. And look at it today. You can't go into any housewife's home after 7 o'clock and they will not have a glass of wine in their hand. It has become a constant. And the wine, now they have wine superstores. They sell wine in 7-Elevens. Wine has become a huge industry. And they don't even know it. They don't even realize that they got this guy right here to thank. This is the guy that they can thank for all their success. And I dare anybody to refute the logic of the story I just told. It's crazy. It's crazy.
And we have, well, just a brief, because if you go to drkiltz.com, there's still some tickets left, 50. And I think we're sort of like, sign up. We want everyone to show up for the meetup in Tampa, 8 to 11. And Mitch is going to be there and sharing his amazing joy of life and energy to all of us. You know, this idea, I mean, I grew up with a Coors distributor next door. I'm Italian. My parents Italian. We had my father's uncle had an Italian restaurant in Hollywood called the Naples, across from CBS Studios in the 40s, 50s, and 60s.
Wow.
And it was amazing. And we were drinking wine and beer, you know, sipping it from young ages. And is it just kind of a collective? We're just all in a party. And ultimately, alcohol is harmful for us in any frequency or significance.
Yeah, I think so. It's a poison. But you know, the term that's just thrown around by everybody, and it's the one thing that I just get a look of disgust on my face and turn around and go, okay, if I'm talking to anybody about diet and I hear the two things, well, I don't believe that. Anything in moderation, and you have to eat a balanced diet. Those two things make me crazy. I go, okay, thank you, you're right. You just keep doing that. I can't help you, even if you wanted me to. A balanced diet. Eat the rainbow. That's another one. Eat the rainbow.
What is? But that is the pharaohs realized if they feed the masses beer and bread, they control them for life.
Of course they do. They addict them. They addict them to sugar. It's like the drug dealer on the corner. It's like the corner boy that says to somebody, "First taste is free." They know they got a customer for life. That's the addiction model of business. The addiction model, and the addiction model is what the tobacco companies grew on. Well, you know, for some reason, tobacco got politically incorrect. There must have been an agenda behind that, because I joke about it. People think I'm crazy. I say that the tobacco didn't do as much harm to us as the sugar is doing. I think that we were healthier back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s when everybody smoked than we are these days. But the tobacco went out of favor, and the tobacco companies at the time, you know, imagine being on the board of directors of R.J. Reynolds. Okay, so you're sitting there and you're killing yourselves, and the senators and the governors, everybody's giving you heat about cigarettes, and they're not letting you advertise on TV anymore. They're making laws against you, and you're looking over at Nabisco, and they're advertising their addictive products to children. And it's perfectly wonderful. And everybody's celebrating that. And you're going, well, we got Joe Camel. Why do they want to put us in jail when they got Tony the Tiger and their stuff is just as bad for people as our product? Well, that's politics. So the smart people who ran R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company said, well, it appears that our future in this business is maybe not as rosy as we thought. But the food companies, man, what an angle they got. Let's just buy them. So they bought up all the food companies, and then they looked at the they went into the food companies and they looked at the people that worked in the food companies, and they said, oh man, they're employing a bunch of idiots. Our addiction specialists and scientists are so much smarter than theirs because we've been doing it longer. Let's send our guys over to the food companies so that they can use their expertise to make this food even more addictive. And we will have a captive audience of people that cannot live without our food. So they knew all about addiction long before you and I ever started talking about it. And that's how it happened. That's how the big food companies, Coke, Pepsi, Nestle, all of these people are just the cigarette companies in disguise with a much more addictive product and the permission not only to advertise it to young children on TV, but to put their stuff in the baby formula they feed these infants and addict them from the womb on forward.
And the medical profession basically is in collusion with all of the food pharmacy companies.
Oh, there's no doubt. Who do you think writes? Well, you know this. You're a doctor. Who writes the curriculum in the medical schools like Loma Linda University, owned by the Seventh-day Adventists with their vegetarian? And that's another angle that came in, the old Ellen G. White, Harvey Kellogg angle.
Yes.
That sugar is good for you. Don't eat that evil meat, my friends. You'll get cancer and diabetes.
And we're basically all listening to the propaganda. And the beauty of a carnivore lifestyle and world is that you take control of the message. And is carnivore sustainable?
Oh. Well, it's sustained the human race for 2 million years. I think it is sustainable. Yeah, there you go. It obviously is sustainable. I know you've been on it longer than I have, but I can honestly say that in 2.5 years, I have not eaten an unintentional gram of carbohydrate. Now, some carbohydrates come in eggs and meat and things, but other than that, and I think the only time I ever put anything like sweet in my mouth is toothpaste. I've given up everything sweet, and I think that occasionally I'll go have lunch with my son at the barbecue joint, and we'll get sliced brisket because that's as close to meat. And I know they put a little rub on it. I can taste it. That's not going to hurt me, and I don't think you have to be that much of a purist. But for 2.5 years, I have cured every disease I had. My mental clarity has doubled. I'm almost 78 years old. 78 years old. I'm like the elder statesman of the carnivore YouTube community.
Absolutely.
And I feel like I'm 20 and I have more energy than I know what to do with. And I sprang out of bed at 3:30 this morning, even though I didn't need to get up until 4. You know, it's nuts. It's nuts. And I have eaten not a single leaf of lettuce, not a grape or blueberry, not anything other than bacon, eggs, and meat, beef and fish and chicken for 2.5 years. So not only is it sustainable, but it has changed my physiology so that I have no cravings. And that's the miracle. That's the thing that keeps me going. I say, for the first time in my life, I don't spend my time thinking about how good it would be to eat an ice cream sundae. I don't want that stuff anymore. And even food. I don't even care what I eat. If you told me, Mitch, you have to, for the next 2 months, eat nothing but ground beef, breakfast and, I eat 2 meals a day, nothing but 2 pounds of ground beef a day. You can cook it however you like, but nothing. You cannot bake bacon. You cannot eat eggs. I would say, okay, doesn't matter. I don't derive my pleasure from food anymore. I just fuel myself up. And people say, well, how can you live like that? I say, how can you live any other way, being a slave to food instead of having this food freedom? And people don't believe you. And it's you and I, people like you and I, that put ourselves out there in front of people and say, don't believe, I did that in my video the other day, my morning. I said, look, I'm not asking you to take my word for it. Look at me. I'm putting myself out there as an example that this works. It's up to you. If you believe me or not, I can only do so much. But I'm having a ball with this, and I don't know if you realize this or not. Can you see a viewer count there?
226.
Is that friggin' unbelievable or what? Is that unbelievable?
Well, and I got to tell you, I watch this stuff, and because we do love to listen to human beings with a story that's either similar or different. And I think the critical part here is I actually don't usually listen to you live. I get the recording, and I know you two often listen to me as a recording.
Oh yeah, I'm not getting up at 5:00 in the morning. I'm up, but I'm not ready to watch YouTube yet.
Yeah. And I'm already out the door and ready to go by 4:00. But it is, we are human beings, and we're attracted to the conversation of human life, the stories. And I'm working with healing humanity and telling the story. And I think the reason we do these meetups, these morning meetups, evening meetups, or we go to a meetup, is because we get to connect with people who have done something hard and have learned something more amazing. And again, I was on all the drugs for years, all the doctor sections, and carnivore. I learned from YouTube. And before
I know, it's crazy, isn't it?
I learned
crazy
from my patients and Atkins. I've learned. And so we're really, really, really on this journey, and we're not getting it from our doctors.
I see you put Peter up there.
Yeah, I put Peter up for you. Would you read that comment?
Oh man, I love Peter. I mean, Peter for me, I don't want to insult Peter because I love him. He's got the greatest heart. He's such a nice guy. But sometimes, even if you love somebody, don't you want to strangle them sometimes?
Well, we want to strangle our wives, and we love them.
Oh yeah, or your kids especially.
Us.
Yeah, or your kids especially. So I bust on Peter, and I always tell him, and it's true. I said the people that I really like are the people I bust on the most. You and I. The day we first met in Orlando, I was sitting in the lobby of the hotel, and you and your people were walking by, and I looked at you, and I'm sitting there, and you don't know me for Adam. I don't know you, but I know you because you've been on YouTube longer than I have, and I yelled, "Hey, Kiltz!" Remember? I said Kiltz, not Dr. Kiltz, but Kiltz. I didn't even know you liked to be called Kiltzy yet, but I said Kiltz, and you turned around, what? And I think you recognized me, and we started talking, and did we get off, and then Nelson joined, and we were like the three long lost brothers, and and you don't meet too many people in your life where you get that feeling instantaneously, but we did. Now we haven't done a lot or anything together. This is our really first. Other than those impromptu live streams that we've done in the past, this is really the first time that we've ever formally, and it was only by accident that I'm here today. Allie has sent me kind of a panic email. Oh no, our guest tomorrow went into labor. Can you fill in? I said, sure. Why?
Well, we couldn't find anyone else, Mitch.
Well, of course not. Not this one to get up in the middle of the night. What are you, crazy? I joke about you all the time, and look at it. Look at it. It's 20 minutes to 6 in the East Coast. That means it's 20 minutes to 3 in California. We've got 250 people. Look, I mean, and my attendance, I've got 145 of my viewers, it says here, and you've got so many, I mean, we've got the whole crowd just joined together in this live stream, and it's great. I see Ellen is there, and only thing I feel guilty about is I usually try to really pay attention. Who's this? Says Lori's Carnivore Stores. Mitch has never busted on me. See, now I'm getting chastised. People are beginning to feel left out. So I guess I'm going to have to start. I love all of you guys. I'm going to have to start busting on more people.
And I'm just touching the comments, and I'm grateful for Mitch being here. He's a pain in my ass, but this is the beauty of our brothers and sisters. We're here a little bit to bust each other. And of everything I've ever learned, the community of carnivore is the most embracing. Whether you're a vegan, vegetarian, Mediterranean, pescatarian, or whether you're a theist or an atheist or an agnostic, like everyone's welcome.
No doubt. I'm pouring myself some more coffee here.
Well, I actually added a little bit of sparkling water to my decaf coffee because I don't get a second cup for sure.
Oh,
I'm flying with Bob and Zella and Alan today from Syracuse down to Sarasota.
Oh, you're in New York now. That's right. You said Syracuse, and I'm going to myself, where the hell is Syracuse, Florida? I never heard of that.
Well, there probably is one somewhere, but I'm getting a ride down there. They're dropping me off. They're doing jet training in my plane. So, because I always bring a co-pilot.
Oh, of course. That's not a bad idea. I'm telling you.
When I fly, and although recently I flew solo, Sarasota to where did I go? Fort Lauderdale? No, not Fort Lauderdale, but somewhere down there. And but if I long flights, always a co-pilot. Anything over 5 minutes.
I don't know. I remember back in the days, and I had a not really a friend, but somebody that traveled in the circles I did that owned a Citation back then, and that was when the SP first came out, the first certified single pilot business jet. This is a long time ago. This is 30, 40 years ago. And I would fly with him here and there in it, and I got to fly it, and I never got certified. I rated in it, but I've flown a few of those things, and we talked about that, and he agreed. He said, I can fly this thing alone. He says, but I think that's kind of dangerous. And then, if you remember Payne Stewart, remember the golfer? Well, Payne Stewart was in my neighborhood and flew out of the Sanford airport where I flew with a fixed base operator that was where I got my airplane at the time maintained, and with the sketchiest pilot the guy that was flying it was a very, very sketchy pilot, and something happened and the airplane depressurized and it just was on autopilot and it just kept going, and then they finally had jet escorts, military escorts, and then it finally ran out of fuel and crashed and they all died. And everybody's trying to figure out the reason, and I knew the reason because I knew who was maintaining that airplane, and they were thieves. They were not doing the job, and you can't treat airplanes like that. You know that, and I both know that.
So I got Kiltz Mighty Tribe on, by the way. KMT in the morning. Jonathan reminds me of his Boca, and then I had to fly to Fort Lauderdale the other day in order to fill up on oxygen, because our oxygen was a little low, and we don't do high and long without a full tank of oxygen.
Oh, of course not.
They take care of us in Sarasota, so we had to fly over to Fort Lauderdale to get tanked up. Top.
Oh, no kid, really? You have to go to Lauderdale to get oxygen?
Yeah, they didn't have it in Sarasota on Saturday. So we flew over to Fort Lauderdale, and they're really good there because they service 7 days a week. And we flew over at about 12,000 feet.
Oh,
And so it was perfect. It was fine. We were good. We always make sure we have full tanks. It's serviced regularly. That is the most important part. And ultimately, this is the secret of humanity, is you got to take care of yourself like you take care of all your stuff.
oh yeah, and people don't do that. We're the most intricate machine of any machine we ever come in contact with. And the problem is, since our machines are designed to maintain themselves without our conscious interference, we take them for granted, our human body. They're designed not to need us directing their every chemical reaction. So we tend to ignore it. And that's not bad advice. And that's another thing that I tell people. Don't micromanage anything. It's not your job to regulate your ketones, for example. It's not your job. Millions and millions of years of life before you didn't know what a ketone was, let alone how to take a blood test and try to figure out how much your body heals itself. Yeah. Your body does all that. Leave it alone and nourish it. That's my main message. And people say, well, this guy says I need to take creatine. This guy says I need to take that. This guy says this is the magic thing. This will make me live 20 more years. I say, just eat the right foods. Don't worry about it. Go out and have a good time. Live your life. Get out in the sun. Put your bare feet in the ground. Act like you're a caveman. If you live like a caveman, you probably have odds of better health than not these days, listening to all this stuff. So
we've got Mitch, Old Guy Carnivore, on YouTube right now, talking to our Instagram, Dr. Kiltz, our Kiltz Mighty Tribe. And so we appreciate the comments and questions. Jonathan was reminding me about Boca. Jeff P. Cohen is my other pilot brother, talk about rapid decompression. And we basically have had chronic slow decompression since the day we were born.
Well, yes. We're all headed for the same final destination in this world. How we get there is the key. And I know that there's no way I'm going to cheat death, but I sure as hell want to live my life without pain, with a sharp mind, right up until the end, rather than die a slow, painful, miserable, sick death somewhere in a nursing home and then in a hospice. And we can do that. We can do that. And we can do that. And you know, the interesting thing is sometimes it sounds like we're trying to be salesmen for carnivore, like we're pushing a product on people, and they're always trying to say, well, you're just a con man. Why do we care?
We're not whether somebody, we're cavemen.
Yeah. Why would we care or want? What's the incentive for us to make people carnivores? That's just more competition for us at the butcher shop. We actually have an incentive to keep it a great secret, so there'll be more meat for us, because meat is not that plentiful. But yet, here we go. We're trying. I think somewhere in us, there must be a good heart that cares about people, because there are really no other reasons why we want to create more competitors for the diminishing supply of food that we know keeps us healthy.
Is there any special supplements you take, and what medications are you on at your young age?
At my advanced decrepit age, I'll be 78 in May, and it used to sound far away, but now it's February already. I mean, I just had my 77th birthday, and now I'm like 3 months from 78. And then I'm only 2 years from 80. So I could do like Sean Baker does. Sean Baker's been almost 60 now for like 5 years.
Yeah. And I've been almost 70 for about 3 years.
Yeah. I mean, you tend to do that because we're, unlike most people who want people to think that you're younger than you are, I actually am so proud of the fact that I'm in the shape I'm in and have the mind that I still have at my age, when most people my age, well, more than half of them are already dead, because I've lived past the average age in this country. And I would say 50 to maybe 60, 70% of them don't have a mind left. They're suffering some early dementia or Alzheimer's. They're in a nursing home. And here I am, clear of thinking, able to do this YouTube stuff right alongside the young kids, because it is a young kids game. And you too. And it is the diet. And you ask me what I take, what supplements I take. My philosophy about supplementation just pisses off everybody in the supplement business. And I know that you have a line of supplements. I don't want to hurt your feelings. I know you do. My philosophy about supplements is that I go back to the cavemen. And I also go back down the chain of ancestry that led to me, because and I talked about this yesterday, and it's a simple fact. Sometimes I get in conflict with the creationists, and I don't want to hurt their feelings, and I think people can believe whatever they want, but I can't believe what I believe without accepting the fact that DNA is DNA and it's programming, and that cells reproduce, and that every living thing came from some kind of a parent of the living thing before it, way back to the first living thing 3.5 billion years ago. I mean, this is proven now. It's science. And that there are things called last common ancestors along the whole way. And we all have you could pick any human being on the planet Earth, and if you got all the DNA analyzed and everything, you would be able to identify who the last common ancestry you had with that person. If you went back far enough, you could identify the last common ancestor between you and the tree in your front yard, because at one time you both came from a single living organism, okay? And that's way back. That's back in the Ediacaran, or before the Cambrian, in the Ediacaran, 550, 600 million years ago, when animals and the plant kingdoms split, okay? Now, I think in those terms of where do we come from, because that's how you find out why we are the way we are, but that's old ancient history. So back in the days, up until a couple thousand years ago, at least back up until the agricultural revolution, there was no such thing as a supplement. Everything we needed was in the food we ate, right? Pay attention. Yeah, everything was in the food we ate. Everything. So why would we need supplements? Well, we've screwed up the food supply. That's why. Okay, so we know what we need, and because of the raping of the soil, because of making more profits, because cows are now factory farmed instead of grazing in pristine pastures with rich soil, with all the iodine and the minerals and everything that they need. Some of the things we need don't get into our food. But not a whole lot of stuff. Not a whole lot of stuff. It's basically just minerals. It's usually the electrolytes and the minerals: iodine, potassium, sodium, magnesium, calcium. These are basic elements. You can't screw them up. Magnesium is magnesium. You can combine it with different things, but we need a certain amount of magnesium for our basic chemical reactions. So the trick in determining what supplements you need, and the way I did it, is you try to identify. And one way to identify what you're short on is blood tests. Another way might be certain symptoms, like if your legs are cramping up at night, chances are maybe you need a little more electrolytes. Well, I think almost everybody needs electrolytes these days.
But in general, I think even our electrolyte needs are over recommended personally. I mean, what other animal is searching for electrolytes other than salt?
I agree.
Salt. I mean, I have my Malden salt, and I drink my Gerolsteiner water. I offer organ meat and liver supplements, which I recommend because I don't think we're eating enough of them. But do I really know you need them? I don't. I actually sell a plant-based molecular fertility prenatal vitamin in order to compete with the standard ones that are too expensive, to lower the price. But what I recommend to everyone is go carnivore.
Yeah, Oh man, and there's no shortage of stories of women who never thought they'd ever be able to get pregnant when carnivore. Look at Ken Berry. Look at Nisha.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a great story. But for me, I minimize it. I take vitamin D3 and
Yeah.
K2 because my blood was 30. It's too low. So I said, okay, I'll take one little tiny capsule a day for a year and see what happens. Well, it went up to 64. So I'll take the vitamin D, but I take a drop or two of iodine in my coffee every day because it couldn't hurt. You know, I'm Jewish. We have an expression, couldn't hurt. You know, it couldn't hurt. You know, people would say, well, that won't help. We would say, it couldn't hurt. You know, and that's what I do. And I have a little electrolyte mix, and I figure, well, just prophylactic, just maybe I need it. If I don't, it's no big deal. I can't OD on it. I'll just get rid of it, you know? So that's all I take. That's it, period.
My grandmother lived 104. She smoked Pall Malls, drank Manhattans, and she was not very nice, they say. Now, she was always great to me, but you know, you know, do we know the secret to living a long time?
Well, it used to be, you know, everybody says, well, you know, modern medicine is what's doing it for us because our ancestors back they only lived to 20 or 30, maybe 40 years. Well, yeah, but you know, half the children died at birth. Okay, that kind of screws up the longevity. And how about the fact that, you know, if they broke their arm, they would die of gangrene. Yeah, modern medicine does help in things, and I always tell these doctors, oh God, it aggravates me. I say, when I break something and I need a mechanic, you guys, look, they saved my life. They took a huge subdural hematoma out of my head. They had to cut my skull up. These guys were mechanics, but stay out of my metabolism. Well, you don't tell me because my cholesterol is 500 that I'm going to die. I'm healthier than you. You have no clue what you're talking about. You don't understand that the blood numbers of what you call average for a sugar metabolizing organism don't resemble what they do in any way of somebody who's using fat as fuel and has to transport that fat through their bloodstream and needs the lipoproteins to do it.
And amino acids and sugars are converted to fat in the liver via insulin, or you die. That's the simple metabolism of the human body.
It's
amazing. Simple.
It's so elegant. It's elegant, but the reason we get screwed up is because we have alternate pathways. We're hybrids. We have lipolysis and glycolysis, okay, to make energy. We had those developed because the fact that the animals weren't always there and the sugar became survival food. And
well, the sugar, it makes fat. That's why the universe wants us to eat sweets, to get fat.
To get fat,
That's all.
of course. And that's why when you eat sweets, it doesn't satisfy your appetite because you're encouraged to gorge on them. Whereas fat, on the other hand, promotes satiety. I mean, it's such an elegant balance of hormones. But I think that I watched your live stream yesterday, and you had Richard Smith on there, and he's what a brilliant, and I say young guy because everybody in the world is young. I think I have a couple of viewers that are older than me, and they certainly let me know it. But Richard is a brilliant guy, and he's probably a great consultant and coach, and maybe one of the few that do these coaching things and charge money for it that's actually qualified because he has done the homework. He studies and he knows every big word. Okay, he knows every big word. And I listened to that entire live stream yesterday, and I appreciate the shout outs, my friend. And I understood every word that he said. I understood every pathway he talked about, every biological process, because I've done like he did. I didn't go to school for that. I learned on my own, kind of like, you know, so many even college-educated people who actually don't learn anything meaningful until they're finished with the formal education because half the shit they're taught is propaganda anyway. So I said, you know, and I look at his channel and I say, well, he doesn't really have a big following. when you think about it. And I say, I wonder why. And I said, maybe he's talking just so technical and so over the head of people that just don't understand what he's saying, that they get confused. And I think the thing that's been the biggest help to me is I know how to talk to people in a language that they can understand. I've always had that talent, and so I try to de-science it as much as I can and use analogies that people can relate to, like a hybrid car. When you're talking about whether you're burning sugar or fat, I always use a hybrid car as an example or something like that. And I think people understand it. And yet Richard Smith is so far ahead of me in his knowledge of the biochemistry, it makes me ashamed of myself. It makes me sit there and say, Mitch, maybe you're not qualified to be talking about this stuff.
Well, I think the science is a little snake oil, personally. I think it distracts from the simplicity of who and what we are. As ancient hunters, and plants are meant to be consumed sweet from time to time in large amounts in those times in order to make fat to survive the winter. If you look at bears, we're probably more like bears, which become hyperphagic in the late summer, fall to eat the sweets in order to gain more fat so they can live through hibernation, migration, gestation, and nesting. There's a cue there, Mitch. Can you read it?
Yeah. After 1 year carnivore, I think I'm oxalate dumping. Was keto for the year before this time. Been carnivore for a year. Added some dairy back in. Supposedly helped my body shed it. Any strategies? Well, I know that I went through a period of oxalate dumping. And how do I know that I had oxalate poisoning? Because years ago, I subscribed to all the superfoods. Even though I've tried to be low carb, I've been low carb since Atkins wrote his first book back in '72, the Atkins Diet Revolution. But I wasn't a carnivore. I was still in the plants are good for you category. And what are the plants they recommend to us? Well, only the highest oxalate plants in the world: spinach, leafy greens, almonds, nightshades, all of that stuff. And I ended up with 8 kidney stones. Some of them were big. And I've been hospitalized a couple times trying to pass them. It's not been pleasant. Now, my body was full of oxalates, obviously. And I think, oxalates can deposit in your joints. They can screw you up everywhere. They're just, it's bad stuff. The body just wants to get rid of them, but we keep putting more and more in. Not only do we eat spinach, but we figured out a way to get 10 times more poison out of it at one time. We juice it or make smoothies out of it. On celery, oh my God. And almonds, not only you have oxalates, but you got cyanide out the wazoo. It's true. These things are so poisonous. And when you stop eating it, and I taken all of my cues from Sally Norton on the oxalate thing. So rather than try to give people all the advice about oxalates, I can just relate. And to answer that question, I can relate because I went through it. Now, I didn't have to start adding some oxalates in because it wasn't that bad. But if you do dump too fast, it can be harmful. But I dumped it every which way. My kidney stones, some of the ones that were 1 centimeter across, I mean, we're talking boulders. Yeah. They started getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And once they got small enough, they started looking around and looked for the nearest travel agent, said, okay, guys, it's time to get out of here. And that's when I started passing them. Okay. And I have 3 stones left of the 8 that I had originally. The rest of them have dissolved, not from drinking lemon juice like they told me. I tried that for years. That didn't do anything. But from not eating oxalates, my body finally said. But the most interesting thing that happened to me was the rash. The rash. I got these rashes, and some of the bumps formed a little head. And then I scratched the head and it broke open, and inside was a size of a grain of sand, a crystal, like a little glass shard that was an oxalate crystal. And your body is pushing this stuff up through your skin to get rid of it. And yet nobody knows about this. Nobody tells you when you're young, hey, don't eat so much friggin' spinach. I know Popeye told you it's good for you, but nobody tells you that.
Well, I keep it very simple. The 5 causes of disease are all secondary to the majority of it's all plant toxins, plant sugars, plant antigens, plant chemicals, the fermentation of plants. And I think excessive exercise is not good for us. And maybe you could make some comments about your activity level and how you think important it is for us old guys and gals to get out on the treadmill and do massive exercise.
I was going to the gym every morning, most days, and I'm working way too hard for an old guy. And I started, I'd never been muscular. I've never been athletic. I've always been like the Pillsbury Doughboy all my life. I've never, ever had a body that I even wanted to show off in a bathing suit. Now all of a sudden I lose a bunch of weight. My shape starts to look more like a human being. Yeah, look at you. Yeah, well, you're in great shape, Kelsey.
Well, so is Mitch, by the way. And again, I think it's mindset and meat. Eat the meat.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Positive mindset and do something hard, which is getting up every day and getting on live and sharing your story.
So I got a little gym, to answer your question. I used to go to the big gym, and it's full of jocks. Everybody's trying to out-jock the next guy. And I just got tired of the culture and having to go there and everything and compete with everybody just to get to so I bought one of these little things that you can do pull-ups on and dips and things like that, and some resistance bands, and I started doing a little workout at home. And I walk, but I don't think walking I think it's good for you. You need to walk. And I would do push-ups and some deep knee bends. But I started, getting into this YouTube, and I started doing this morning live stream at 8:30, and I went to walking because that's when I like to walk. And I couldn't. I had to set up for the live stream. It was dark, and then when it finally got light, I'm ready to go on the live stream. And afterwards, I don't feel like walking, so I haven't walked a whole lot. And I used to walk and record videos because for some reason, walking makes my brain work and my mouth work. And I can walk, hold up a camera on a selfie stick, and give tremendous lectures that I have no idea where they come from. I know the knowledge is in there, but there's no script, no planning, no nothing. That whole thing I did in the kitchen the other day, Kiltz, the one you watched?
Yeah.
I had no idea what I was going to say. I just turned the camera on and out it came. It had formed itself in my mind outside of my consciousness. And I just turned it loose, and that seems to be how my speeches seem to work. And then I watch the replays of them, and I don't know if you've ever done this. I'll watch a replay, and I'll go, holy cow, where the hell did that come from? I couldn't have scripted it that way. And that's true. That's true. You let the power of your brain work without interference, it works better. It works better. So the exercise thing, I said, and that's one of the reasons I made this change from 8:30 to 9:30. That 1 hour change in the morning is going to, because I haven't been getting enough exercise for the past 3 or 4 months. I know it. And I don't want to lose what muscle I have because I've never been a muscular guy. And now I'm 5'10". I weigh 136, 137 pounds. Everybody tells me you're too skinny, but I'm not. I have a very light frame, and I have a 15% body fat, so I'm not too skinny. And I still have some muscle, but I'll never go to the beach and impress the women. Maybe the old women, they might like me, but none of these young girls are going to chase me. But I need to start. I do believe in exercise, but I agree. Overdoing it, like people who say, well, I walk 20 miles a day. I said, you're not doing yourself, well, it's cardio. I said, you don't need that. Eat meat.
What are you
That's
doing
all you do.
20 miles a day? I mean, that's like all day.
Yeah, I said,
Why?
what are you kidding? Or I worked out for 5 hours in the gym. Well, if your goal is to become a competitive bodybuilder with 3% body fat, yeah, you'll look good, but you're killing yourself.
I
You're
wish do life. Do life.
Yeah, live. And if you got enough muscle where you don't fall down, in other words, that's the key when you get older. You have to maintain enough muscle that to always be able to maintain your balance, especially when you're running down steps. If you can run down a flight of steps and not feel shaky, you're okay. So that's why I do the squats and walking, just to keep the leg muscles going. Upper body strength, basically, that we're designed to realize how much muscle we need and maintain that much muscle and no more. Why maintain something you don't use? Because it requires energy. So in an effort, the human body will go into hypertrophy or atrophy and will make and take away muscle as it's needed. So you do want to do a certain moderate amount of exercise, I think, so that you have the muscle that you need to live and be agile and not have trouble getting up out of a chair.
So this is my desk in my office. I do online stuff. I do procedures in the office, but I do stand up most of the time. I got my light weights. I do my 100 push-ups a day. I do my 30 to 60 minutes of light walking. And so I think, go to work and do something. Be motivated to just go do something every day. That's what I'm really getting from Mitch.
I think it does, and sometimes I'm looking at myself, and you get so involved in things where you're not getting exercise, like doing all these YouTube things. Like my watch, I have one of these watches, and it nags the hell out of me. It tells me, get moving. It comes on, it says, get moving. I say, shut up. And I'll say, and then the minute, if I get out of the chair, it comes back on and says, good job. I don't need a watch to tell me that I need to get moving, but it's fun. It's holy cow, Kiltz.
I know.
We're really going long here.
I have to get to a patient in 10 minutes. We're just having such a great conversation. I just want, and I know you've got to get to your live.
Oh man, I got to do this again. Yeah, at 9:30 tonight. And I'm going to try to accomplish something between now and 9:30 too. But because you got me. Well, no, I always get up early. But this morning I was up about a half an hour earlier. I actually got out of bed about 10 to 4, and I usually get up between 4 and 5 sometimes.
And you made a comment about YouTube in general. There are a few people that make a lot of money on YouTube, and there are a few people that make a lot of money on Bitcoin and stock market. But I always say the best place to make money is go to work. And I know Mitch and others, so many others, are doing this because they care about helping, healing humanity. So I just want to Mitch, I'm going to raise my coffee cup and toast my brother for just getting up and being a little thorn in our sides, and pushing us to get us up and out and live and think differently. And there is some entertainment to listening and watching you, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I try to be somewhat entertaining. I'm a closet comedian. I always regret the fact that I was the class clown. I was blessed with a hell of a sense, an ironic, dark sense of humor.
George Carlin.
George Carlin.
You're the man. You're the George Carlin of YouTube. Yeah,
people hear to me. I know I'm imitating when I do the voice of that person talking about, when I say things like, you gotta eat in moderation. I know that's pure Carlin. I mean, that's probably where I got that from. That stupid voice that he used to use. I loved the guy. I got his books. A brilliant man.
Masterful. I was listening. That's what I love YouTube. There's so many places we can go, and I hope you're going to be at I'm listening to everyone out there. Come to the Tampa meetup, and I bet if you simply call Texas to Brazil for a noon reservation, show up and because we don't have any more spots there, but I think they have more openings. So,
Well, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be there. And what I'm going to do, I don't know, I'm going to do my morning live stream on Friday. Okay. And, you know, I really appreciate the B&B that you set me up with. I know there's other people. That's great. But I'm going to drive right from Melbourne right to your house. Okay.
perfect. Come early. You come early, by the way.
Okay, that's what I was going to tell you.
Oh, yeah.
I may get there before 4 o'clock. I may get there at 2 o'clock, but I'll just come.
Just come over. Oh yeah.
I'll come right to your house, and I'm just going to play the whole week. I haven't had a weekend off, and God, I can't remember the last time. I'm going to just play it by ear, and I'm so grateful that I'm going to get a chance to come, and then we'll be able to schmooze and have some time together.
And that, again, we're all hanging out, sharing community, conversations, and carnivore. And you know, guys, wherever you're in this world, go to a meetup, connect with other brothers and sisters, share your experience, and ask questions. So, Mitch, my brother.
Later, man.
Later,
Good
brother,
to see you this morning. And like Curry and I, you know, Curry and I do these things, and we get along the same way. We right away say, man, you know, you're like a brother from another mother. And I feel that way about him. And every time we finish one of these things, we say, why don't we do this a little more often? And it never happens because it's just such turmoil.
Well, who's Curry?
This
Do I know
YouTube
Curry? Do I know? Curry.
Curry, Healing Humanity.
Oh, Care. Oh, yeah. Curry. Yeah. So last night, I got to just share this story. So I was supposed to be on Healing Humanity last night, 6 to 8. But I had a bunch of docs in town that I had to schmooze with a little bit. And so we had a meeting. It's my team and we rarely see each other. So I had to cancel with Healing Humanity. And I was like, felt bad. So I ate oysters and I had scallops and steak and I got sick.
Oh, no.
Oh yeah, and a few of my other friends got sick too. We think it was from the oysters, and it was like I even had to eventually. I said, guys, I gotta go, and so it was my punishment for missing Healing Humanity with Carrie. And
there you go. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing all you guys tomorrow, and we'll have I only had one problem. Where's everybody gonna park? At your
I
place.
haven't figured that out. Just on the street.
Your neighbors are going to they're going to come at your house with front end loaders, push you right into the water, man. They're going.
We'll figure it out. You know,
okay. All right.
It just is what it is.
Okay.
It's what it is. I love
hope
everyone.
your neighbors
Thank
love you.
for being here. All right, my friend.